The Honest Money podcast is brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. We consider everything to give you the advantage. It's the future of investing. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP.
Welcome to Honest Money. I'm Warren Ingram.
This is Pieter Villiers.
Thank you so much for joining us again. We're in episode 3 now of our series, which is based on kind of life stages of financial planning. And this particular series is then people in the beginning stages of their career. And you know, if you haven't caught the previous episodes, please go back and start at the beginning. But even if you haven't watched the beginning, you're welcome to listen to this one. I think we'll give you sensible information. So we're going to be talking a little bit about kind of a bit more nuts and bolts now. So you know, things around how to get I call it a spending plan. You like budget, different language, but how to build one, and then also around an emergency fund and how to get one and what to do around that. So it's big steps. I think, you know, lots of people don't get to the point where they have a proper spending plan and have an emergency fund. I think it's probably 8 out of 10 salary earners don't even get there. So it might sound like such simple stuff to talk about, but if it's so simple, why is no one doing it? And we're going to help you achieve that.
Yes, it's so important this stage in your life that you develop the skills to get this right. Because if you can do this correctly, you're already in that, Warren said, that top 20, top 30%. Because people in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, they might still struggle with these basic elements of money. And again, it's not necessarily anyone's specific fault. It wasn't been taught to you at an early age, but now you are here today and you're listening to this. So what we're going to do is try and like guide you on how you can approach the principles of setting up a budget or a conscious spending plan, and then, you know, what an emergency fund really is and how to actually go about putting that together. So when we talk about budget, spending plan, conscious spending plans, more or less the same. The principle behind that is just understanding what money is coming in, what money is going out. So that's at like a macro level. So money is coming in. The first episode we talked about your pay slip. There's your gross salary, and then you pay your taxes, and there's maybe some deductions from your employer for maybe they help pay for your medical aid and your insurances and all of that. And then you get your net pay. Now that is what's now going into your budget. So if you put together your budget, whether that's a pen and paper, old school, or you've got your own Excel sheet, or you're using an app, doesn't matter. That net pay is now salary coming in. So that's at the top, income. Right. So maybe you also do other stuff. Maybe it's not only your full-time job. Maybe you have a side hustle. A lot of people in their 20s are doing phenomenally well with side hustles. They're like pursuing a specific interest online, and they start a business and they're shooting the lights out. So that's also income over there. Maybe you receive some gifts from family on your birthday. You can add that there. So anything that enters your pocket goes into your income category, the top. It's like if you look at a bucket, it's the water you pour into the bucket. Right, so now you've got money in the bucket. Now, there's different ways to go about putting together a budget. The one that works for me is understanding the difference between wants and needs, because they have different weights and different priorities. So we always start with needs. What are the things I need to spend money on? Otherwise, I won't be able to continue like living, surviving. So
the oxygen of your financials.
Luckily, oxygen is for free. So housing, you need to stay somewhere. Now, this could mean you're renting a place. It could mean move back to your parents and you're contributing to that. Especially at this age, maybe it means moving into an apartment with a friend and splitting the bill. Maybe you've got a partner or you're married and you can rent together. That's good. That's probably going to be, after taxes, your biggest expense at this stage. And it can get quite a large amount. But try and minimize that. Next big need is transport. So you need to get to work and back. We talked about a car loan in the previous episode and what to watch out for. If you don't have to buy a car, then don't. If you can carpool, if you can take a bicycle, and if it's safe enough, or even if there's public transport, probably better to hold off on buying a car to minimize the transport. And that now includes your fuel. Maybe you can put car insurance there, maintenance, toll fees. Hopefully you don't get traffic fines. Please
don't forget tires.
Tires are expensive. Everything that falls into that category. In my mind, that will be your second biggest. Then we get food, which is also surprisingly quite expensive. Once you start paying for your own food, you realize it's quite a lot. Now, it's important to balance cost effectiveness with safety, because yes, you can eat for very cheap, but then you're probably going to buy food that's going to cause health conditions later on in life.
Yeah.
So what I've learned over time is it's okay to spend a little bit more on healthy food, but rather meal prep. And if it's a Sunday evening, try and bulk your groceries, go to the shop, buy a big list of stuff that you're going to use for the week, and then make your meals for the week, and then you have dinner every night. Instead of, you don't do that, usually what happens is you come back from home, you're tired, you don't want to make food, and you go get takeaways. Then that becomes expensive. So try and minimize the cost of food, because that's also a big line item. And then you get stuff like utilities. You need to pay your electricity, you need to pay for water. That's also one that I'll add there. And then maybe like a fifth one, which might not always be a need, but you need to wear clothes. Like socially inappropriate not to wear clothes. So you
It's
need
quite
to
cold in winter as well.
you need to wear something. Doesn't mean you have to buy the latest clothes and follow the latest fashion trends. No, you can go buy decent clothes at a decent price. Even secondhand clothing, that's a massive market that you can tap into, that you can buy very nice type of branded clothes for the cheap prices. So try and be smart about that. And then maybe I'll add like cell phone, in the sense that you need a device to communicate. Now, again, you don't need the latest iPhone 200 Max, Pro Max, whatever they call it these days. You probably get a phone and keep it for at least 5 years, and you need airtime and all of that. So those are kind of, in my mind, what I'll add as your needs, and maybe to add to that is household expenses. So you probably gonna have to pay for cleaning supplies and personal care and hygiene, stuff like that. That would be my needs category. I don't know if you've got
Now I
anything.
understand why you've got a beard, because razors are expensive.
They are. Actually, I got a razor for my 30th birthday, because my previous one I got for my 20th birthday and it broke. So I had to super glue the setting, and I only had one setting. So and so I look the same always. I just have, but now I've got a new razor, my 30th birthday.
And maybe it sounds funny to say it, but we spoke about insurance for your car, but you probably also need insurance for your stuff.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
so lots of us work on laptops.
Yeah.
And if it's a personal laptop and a personal phone, those are items that are frequently lost, stolen. And so that it's expensive, but I think I would make sure that at least those are insured.
Yeah.
You don't need to insure your second hand or your fifth hand couch, like that's okay. But I think that those two, because they're often related to our ability to earn, that I would take care of that. But for the rest, I don't have any other clever ones.
Yeah, maybe just insurance, in long-term insurance, so income protection that we spoke about last time, and a hospital plan, maybe gap cover. Those are also quite important to insure yourself. So I'll also add that to the needs. Now, those are, if you track your expenses over a couple of months, and by the way, the only way to put together a budget or spending plan is you need to first understand where your money's going. So that means you're going to have to download your bank statements and go line item by line item, put it down in an Excel sheet or a budget app and categorize it. Go through that grog. It's going to mean so much to you later on in life if you've got control over your money. And that is the amount that you need to pay every month. Like that's your bare minimum to survive. Now we get to the wants, the fun part. So life is not just about surviving, and it's not just about saving everything and being miserable. You also want to make space in your budget to enjoy life. So that's why we call it a conscious spending plan. We spend money, but we are conscious about the way we spend money. So the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, from Ramit Sethi, says it's nice. He says a conscious spending plan is spending as much money as possible on the things that you love, whilst cutting down as much as possible on the things you don't. So you can live a rich life without being rich. What that means is you're spending money on the things that makes you happy, even if it's a little bit of money, and you can still feel rich. So, for example, if you value traveling and you really like to explore and to be in nature, then make sure you add money to a bucket, a fund that you save up for travels. To know that I've got money in this fund to go for my holiday once a year, every maybe twice a year. If you value, let's say, a fashion, then add more money to your clothing budget. That's okay, because maybe you are someone that really values appearances, and maybe in your career you need to be presentable. So you have to spend more money on that. That's also okay. You're being conscious about how you allocate money towards that. So things in that category or in that group, I'd say like takeouts. Now, maybe you do like to go to restaurants and you do enjoy the experience. Cool. Plan for that. Make sure you have enough money to do it. Entertainment, hobbies. I'll even add gifts and donations in that category. For me personally, I think being able to give a portion of your income to whoever you feel need it, if it's for religious reasons, tithing, or it's just for helping people, philanthropy, it has this nice effect on you. If you give as a human being, you feel better about it. You're adding value to society, and it also helps to remove the grip that money has on you. Sometimes people can get so clustered on having so much money that they don't want to give it. So if you are able to give a portion of your money away for whoever, doesn't matter about the amount, the rand amount, I would try and add that to the wants category as well. And then, it's maybe like other things that you can spend money on that you know that it's going to make you happy, but it's not a necessity that you have to budget for every month. That's what I will clump in that wants group.
I think, the one that it's probably happened over the last 5 years is watching how much money people spend every day on coffee. And it's to me, it used to be kind of like, the really high income people would be walking around with fancy takeaway coffees and the like. But now it seems to me that it's gone all the way from very high income all the way down the income groups, and it's either coffee, and then the one which I think from a health point of view is terrible are these energy, whatever these drinks, power drinks. I don't want to say their names, but those things are, I mean, they're not lethal. That's not actually true, but I feel like they're lethal for your health and
lethal to your pocket,
and then terrible for your money. So let's maybe, I mean, those should just be avoided. But let's just go around coffee. Like, I think there's an argument to be made to buy just a decent coffee machine at home. And to buy beans that you can actually get quite cheaply, and then buy yourself a good coffee mug.
Yeah, yes.
And have a coffee at home, make a coffee, put in your mug, travel with that. That is way cheaper. I reckon you'll pay off your coffee machine within a year of savings.
Yeah.
I'm not saying finance a coffee machine. I'm just saying how much money you're going to save. So that's about a conscious thing. If coffee is important to you and you like nice coffee, somehow to me, coffee tastes nice coming out of a nice cup as opposed to a piece of paper, foam or whatever, cardboard. So even just there, like, you actually get a better coffee experience if you are a coffee nut. And again, it's about being conscious of saying coffee is valuable to me. I get a reward out of coffee. It's part of my life. Good. But then why are you mindlessly spending $50 on actually flavored milk, which is what most people do? A cappuccino is flavored milk. And let's talk about the health impact of that. That's a different conversation. So I think be conscious of that. And then those energy drinks that you're buying every day, if you are buying them, you really are wasting money. And I think you're giving yourself a serious medical bill in 10 or 20 years. So just be careful of that stuff.
Well, yes. If you can make coffee at home and you don't buy bottled water every day, like if those little 500 mils, that's going to add up a lot over time. So what's nice is you can buy a 5-liter bottle, and then if you don't want to drink tap water, because in most of the country that's not safe, go and use this 5-liter bottle, go to Checkers, fill it up. They've got these big massive tanks of purified water. It's 1 rand liter, 5 rand, there you go, 5 liters of water for you, purified and safe. So be conscious about the small things, and note that we're not saying don't drink coffee at all because you're going to save money. No, if it's important to you, do it, but just be smart about it. Just make sure that, okay, if I know coffee, I drink 3 cups a day. All right, so now maybe don't go and buy 3 cups at Starbucks. It's going to be very expensive over the month. Go make your own coffee, take it with you to work. Same with water. And other thing is also subscriptions. People kind of go in the motion of, I see this cool thing, I'm subscribing to it, and then forget about it. And then that subscription is going off every month and you don't even know it. That's why it's so important that if you start out setting up a budget, you need to go through your bank statements, because I can almost guarantee you'll see something there that you forgot about that you're paying for. And that's kind of like, it hurts. I mean, in my case, I took out a student bank account when I was a student for student fees, which is lower, for 5-6 years. That's how long I studied. And then when I graduated, I actually first time looked at my statements. I'm like, no, but wait, this monthly fee is not the student fee that I signed up for 5 years ago. And so they charged me like a standard fee, which is like $300 a month, where it should have been like 50 Rand. Now, over 6 years, that's a lot of money. And I was very upset, and not upset about the bank, but upset about me, not actually just looking at my bloody statements. So it's bringing that clarity and knowing that you're not being robbed without you even knowing about it. So that's why we look at that. And then if you've got your income, you've got your needs, you've got your wants, then what we're trying to do is we're trying to spend less than what we earn. So we want to deduct the needs, we don't want to deduct the wants, and then get to a positive difference of I've got a margin now, I've got savings. Now, it's not always possible in the beginning. You're going to have to do some work and save some money. And if you can't save more money, earn more money. But the general kind of like easier way to look at it is they call it the 50-30-20 rule of budgeting. So 50% of your net income goes to the needs category, 30% to wants, 20% to savings. Now, it's very situational dependent. Probably your needs is going to be a higher percentage starting out, because you're going to have big line items like a car that's going to take a bigger portion of your budget. That's okay. But this kind of gives you a point where if I can even make it simpler than that, I'll say 80-20. So 80% go to needs and wants, but try and get to a point where you can at least at that age save 15-20% of your salary. If you can get to the point where you get that margin, now we can use that to then focus on the next step, which is debt and emergency fund.
So just before we get there, I mean, I think you're landing maybe where we're talking about, adapting money to yourself, to the human being. Mm. And so for someone like me, I know this is my industry. I've done this for a long time, but I am the world's worst budget. Fortunately, I'm married to the spreadsheet queen, so we've got the most detailed budget in the world. But for me, where I land is I start by saying, okay, I need to set aside, let's say it's for me, it's a third, so 30% of my money for long-term savings, and I do that immediately. So I'm not worried about how much of my expenses I spend on clothes relative to a car, for example, because for me, like the way I work, that's not motivating. But what is motivating is I take a third of my income, it gets sent away, and then I take another portion, which is then for the holiday fund, and I have an emergency fund. But if I didn't, I'd have the emergency. All the rest of the money that's in my bank account, and I make sure that goes off the day after I get paid.
Yeah, yes.
All the rest of the money is mine. And I spend it and I do what I want with it guilt-free, because I've done what I'm supposed to do. And then I can allocate the rest as I see fit. The trick, though, is none of that goes to debt. So that extra money that's sitting in my bank account that I'm now free to spend on the food and all the other things, I'm not worrying about debt. I don't have debt. Yeah. So I think if you're in a position where you're starting out and you are debt-free, and you've listened to that 50-30-20, which I think is a very good principle. But if you find that hard, if you're not that person that works on an app or on a spreadsheet, then the other way is okay. But you do that first. You say, okay, they've told me on honest money, I've got to set aside 20% of my money for long-term savings. Do that. Make sure it goes. You don't touch that money. Yeah. Then the balance, go for it. Do what you want. And if you're going to ignore us and you're going to buy lots of coffees, but you're getting by, I mean, good for you. You're living the life you choose the way you want. But I think that's for some people, that's why I talk about spending plans, because when you kind of stand at an audience and you talk to a whole hall full of people about you bring out the B word, budgeting. And I watch about half of them. It's almost like hypnosis. They just fall asleep like that. It's just done. Like they're just And so I think about it like this: if you're watching this and you're thinking about, okay, I can't do a spreadsheet, I can't do that, I don't even know how to calculate percentages. Okay, for once, just ask Perplexity or Chat or whatever, what's 20% of your salary, and then set that aside. And then we're going to go on to the next step. So I think it's about just knowing yourself well enough. Be honest with yourself to say, I know what I should do, I'm just not going to do it. If you're not going to do it one way, you can do it the other way. But what you're not allowed to do by the end of this episode is not follow one of these two paths.
Yeah.
You have to. Just do that, take that step, and then get to the emergency fund.
I love that. It's automating the process. So yes, you get your analytical people. Like I'm in that group where I like to, like, I've been tracking my every cent from 2020 since I started working. I've got my big ass Google Sheets, and I've got everything nice laid out, the track record. That fills my cup. I like doing that. My wife doesn't like that at all. She just pops in every month and we have a conversation. So you get that side of the fence, and you get those that bores them to death. It's not going to work. So then, yes, in that case, make it simple for you. Say like, okay, well, let me automate this process and say, as soon as my salary hits my bank account, 20% goes out to a different pocket, and I pay myself first. That's what we call it. Because trust me, if you're going to try and save what's left over after you spend,
It's not possible.
you're going to have nothing. But if you save first and you spend what's left, then maybe the first month you're going to get to like the 25th of the month, and then your bank is at zero. Then that's going to be a big wake-up call for you to realize, okay, I'm spending too much. So then I'll have to survive for 5 days, and it's going to suck. Next month you'll be more conscious. So that will be an easy hack to force yourself to save, because just if you can do that and manage to get by, and it's weird how life works. You'll find a way. You'll make decisions that will get you to the end. Then we've got that 20%. So let's say now, all right, cool. So we're spending less than we earn. We've got 20% margin. How do we prioritize that? So in the previous episode, we talked about debt, bad debt. So if you've got credit cards, if you've got personal loans, overdrafts, in arrears, where the interest rate is like, anything I'd say above 13%, 1.3, kill that off. So that money needs to go into killing off that debt. And once that is done, start building up an emergency fund. So emergency fund is very simple. It's money that you can keep in your bank savings account. You don't have to overcomplicate it. It serves the purpose of making sure that if you're hit with a financial crisis where you need to pay something quickly up front, your geyser bursting, your car breaking down, your pet falling ill, has to go for vet emergency visit, you don't have much time to not do anything, for inaction. You have to pay something. Emergency fund allows you to then have that funds available to settle the crisis, because if you don't have that, the alternative is back to bad debt, taking out credit cards, or having to go to family members and ask for help. Or maybe you've got an investment portfolio, but you've invested it aggressively in the markets, and the markets is in a downturn. Now you take money out of that and you're realizing a loss. Don't worry about that. We'll talk about that aspect in the next episode. Neither one of those three options are good options. So you want to build a buffer between yourself and emergency. And Dave Ramsey, I like the way he phrases it. An emergency fund helps to turn a crisis into a mere inconvenience.
Yeah.
Where like, okay, this happened, it sucks, I'll pay for it, I can go on with my life. And that margin, that 20%, once bad debt is paid off, you can just focus on building an emergency fund. How much do you need? Now, many schools have thought on this. If you look at your entire budget, you can try and save the full amount. 3 months, I think it's a good amount to aim for at that age. You can also, if you want to go more lean, you can just look at, if you are more analytical and you've got your wants and your needs broken down, you can at least cover your needs. I would say that would be the bare minimum that we're looking at, 3 months of that. But ideally, you want to make sure that you can save, you can continue living that type of lifestyle for 3 months. Obviously, if you hit with an emergency fund, there are some things that you can let go in that instance. If you lose your job, then you can let go of the coffees and you can cancel the subscriptions. You'll still survive. It's not going to be fun, but it's some sacrifices that you need to make. So that's my kind of idea behind how would you then allocate that?
Yeah. So it is a, I mean, I think it's, if you're building an emergency fund and you're starting out, that very first day, I think to give yourself a goal of, as you say, covering your needs makes a lot of sense to me. I think maybe because I'm not so spreadsheety orientated, I'd probably say step one is at least get 1 month of your expenses covered. The ideal, and I do think for most people it just works out very well to have 3 months of your expenses covered, all of your expenses. I think maybe the one caveat is that, you know, if you've got fairly stable and predictable, you know, you earn a salary, or you know, you're a government politician, you know, you're fine for a long period of time, so you get by with. But if you live in the gig economy, or you've got very unstable earnings, and, you know, very volatile earnings, I would try and bump that out eventually to 6 months, because it's so strange how life works. When you've got the emergency fund and you never need it, that's kind of what happens. So that it does become minor, according to Dave Ramsey, just because I find it just rarely happens.
Yeah.
But the day you spend your emergency fund on that emergency holiday you really wanted, the next day is when the crisis happens. And you know, if you think, for example, okay, but I've got car insurance and I'm okay, you know, well, actually, no, you're not, because the likelihood is you've got an excess payment on your car insurance, and you might not have car rental on your attached to your car rental, and so suddenly you've actually put your job at risk, because you don't have an emergency fund. That's how quickly you go from life is great, I had a nice holiday, paid with my emergency fund, to I might actually get fired next. And so, you know, 1 month I would have a priority. 1 month of expenses first, then to 3 months. If your income's stable and everything's fine, stay on the 3 months. But if your income's volatile, get to the 6 months, and then you never have to worry about it again.
Yeah.
You know, and I just want to say, like, I mean, I think people that get to financial freedom, they master control of their money. So they either do it the spreadsheet way, the proper budget way, or they do it the pay yourself first way. But one or the other, they actually take control. They do exert control over their money. And part of that, the results, I can tell you very quickly if someone's got control of their money. When they show me their financial position, I can see it, because I can see if they've got debt, and how is the structure of their debt. I can see their emergency fund, and I can see if they've started putting money aside. You don't have an emergency fund and you've got debt. Actually, what's happening is your dog is taking you for a walk.
Yeah.
Your dog is a massive Rottweiler that's taking you for a ride, and you've got no control over it. Life is controlling you, and it starts with your money. But the day you exert control over the way you spend and where you spend, and you understand it, and you are setting aside money, and you've got an emergency fund, you've taken control. Yeah. And now your dog is not a massive Rottweiler. It's a little Yorkshire Terrier, and you can carry it around wherever you want. You're in charge.
With a little pink ribbon.
Yeah, with the little pink ribbon, if that's what you really want. So I think that it's to me, that's where people go wrong. Is they let money control them.
Yes.
They go, like, you know, it's so boring, as if that's an opt out. Like, is it boring to be in charge of your own life? Is it boring to get to financial freedom? If it is, well, yeah, I'm super boring. But if you really want to do this thing properly, and financial freedom is your goal, understanding at least how you spend some of the money, and putting money aside makes all the sense. Have an emergency fund. We'll get to what you do with the extra money next episode. But for now, I guess it's a bit of a hard call, right? Like, if you want to be controlled for the rest of your life, don't worry about this. Just carry on. Live life going from paycheck to paycheck. When you hit 65, you won't have enough, but don't worry about it. You know, you didn't have to budget.
Yeah. If you think budgeting sucks, you know what else sucks? Being broke for the rest of your life, and realizing at the age of 50, I should have started this at the age of 20. So, and people tell me I don't have time to budget. Like, just go onto your app, your phone, go into settings, look at your screen time. I can guarantee you will find time, 30 minutes a month, just to go through, even if you just go and scroll through your bank transactions, and there's just awareness of, okay, this is where my money is going. That's like just, once you get awareness and clarity, you start feeling in control. Because a lot of times when people are scared to talk about money and to face reality, they avoid it and hope it will go away. No, it's not going to go away. It's going to compound against you. So take that step. Make sure you understand what you're spending money on. And we're not saying don't spend money at all. spend money on what's important to you, but try and make sure that you spend less than you earn so that you can start building the foundation, which is paying off bad debt, building that emergency fund, which will then put you in the right step to then go to the next step, graduating into the next phase where you can actually start investing money and make money grow for you. And that is exactly what we're going to cover in the 4th episode in this first series. So if this is the first time you're tuning in, welcome. There are 2 other episodes before this that you can go check out, and then stick around for the next one. I think it's going to be quite exciting.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Steeland for helping us with our clothing budgets. We appreciate it. And please send us your comments. Especially would love for someone to watch this and in a year's time.
Yeah.
Make contact and say, hey, I've done it.
Yes.
I didn't do the budgeting way. I did it the other way, but I found a way.
Yeah.
Because that's why we do the show. That's why we have Honest Money. And you can subscribe to this because it's free.
Yes. Luckily. You're only paying with your time. And hopefully it will be a good investment for you in years to come.
Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
The Honest Money podcast is brought to you by Prescient Investment Management. We consider everything to give you the advantage. It's the future of investing. Prescient Investment Management is an authorized FSP.